Thanks for coming tonight. I'm Martin, I'm the president of the Beekeepers Association this year. Chris is here, other members of the board, Shelley's here, Caleb's here, Daniel's here. Welcome. I guess we can just get started with, we've got a few things of business. This little piece of paper we're going to send around. If you're interested in pollen patties, go ahead and sign that up. How much are they going to be?
They'll be about $3.50.
$3.50 this year. You know, the price of everything's going up. So if you want them, just put your name on here and we'll bring them to the next meeting.
First time, why would I want them?
Why would you want them? Did you overwinter hives? So in the spring, when pollen sources are far and few between, and you are trying to gear your hive up to get ready for a split, they need pollen to reproduce and build up that hive. Did I answer that
How do I
rightly?
know how many to get?
You know, I think pollen is a great thing. It doesn't hurt to put it on. If you feel, over time I've learned that if you feel it does a good job for you, then put it on. I don't use it anymore, but I like it on my packages or my nooks. But a good hive, I don't put it on.
Even when you're trying to build up to split?
With Utah being such a fall high pollen, it's a very good, depending where you're at, it'll make a difference, but I don't think it will hurt. It doesn't hurt whatsoever. If they take it, they will need it. If they don't take it, it's...
Yeah, I've had some of my hives take it, and then others hives that don't even touch it.
Yeah.
So what, just get one per hive or what?
You can tear them in half also.
How big were
They are
patties?
pound patties.
Pound patties?
Yeah, they're about like that.
Can you freeze them?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And pull them out when you want to use them.
Are you guys going to order any woodenware this year?
Any what?
Woodenware.
Woodenware. Boxes, we're going to talk about that as a board, probably. I'm not sure. I have to check back with who we got it from last time. We got them out of California from
Northern California.
Northern California, so.
Bennett's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did it work?
I worked around it.
Yeah, very
I don't know
good.
what's not wrong with it, but
So we did a huge buy last time. Caleb has a pickup truck full twice coming from Salt Lake down to.
Are you bringing in any hardware anymore, Lee, at
No,
your
I'm not.
Orem?
Just the bees time now.
I know, we've kind of been hard hit in Utah County without having a place
Hey
to
guys,
just
come
go
up here.
to
Okay,
for
so-
hardware.
Amazon was our biggest competitor, so it was hard to compete against Amazon having it brought to your front door. But if you can get a group together, that Bennett's has a very, they have the same, that's where I got my equipment from Shastina. They bought the same machine as Shastina.
So how many people would be interested in doing another group buy of hives and frames and?
So Bennett's has got the same configuration as the Shastina, because that's what I've been doing. Is I drive up to White City, and I usually go as I'm coming through from crabbing.
Yeah.
I will stop from Newport through
I think
Shastina and pick
Bennett's
them up.
kind of made the top bigger, where the Shastina is long. I think Bennett's made the top level bigger, so it's all equal all the way down. And I actually like it better than Shastina.
Do you?
I actually do.
Cool.
Okay, so those are two things. We'll let you know next meeting what the prices are. I'll get hold of her and see what the prices are. They were good last year, so they should be good this year. Actually, people just keep coming. Who's doing that presentation?
Sam.
Sam.
Yes.
Sam.
So every January.
So we started a new tradition last year. we're starting to recognize people who've been into beekeeping and helped beekeeping in Utah. And we, it's unique, and we appreciate the help that we get with BAB and with people who have helped generate this kind of, enthusiasm about bees in Utah County. So I want to invite Sam up to introduce our honoree. We now have, we kind of do it as our appreciation for those who have helped keep beekeeping going. So Sam, you want to come up and do your bio? Our distinguished guest today is Lee Knight, and he's from down in Richfield, right?
I live in Richfield now.
I live in Richfield now, but he's
called Venice.
But he's the one who provides a lot of bees for Utah County. How many would you say packages of bees do you sell in Utah County?
In Utah County, probably 1,800. The other 800 probably goes up north and different places. But I think Utah County is about anywhere from 600 to 800.
Okay.
Are they Utah bees or do they come in from California?
They're all Utah bees. I'm sorry, they're all California bees. If I live here for a year, am I still a Californian or am I a Utah? So if they make it in Utah, they're Utah bees.
Okay, so I'm going to turn time over to Sam.
First thing, I've interacted with Lee for about 13, 14 years, and first package I got from him, me and my lady, a neighbor of mine, we had to beg because we didn't order our package, and I was surprised he let us get that package, but because he had so many people wanting the bees, but I think I've known him since about 2008. But I've been involved with this group since 2009. So, but he is a mentor as well as another person who's learned a lot from by the name of Neil Shelby. Lee has taught me a lot, and I've been had a chance to also teach with him, and that was also a learning experience. But as a young man, Lee always wondered about those boxes at the edge of the farmer's field. Then in 2000, he and his family were rummaging through old photographs, and a portrait was discovered of his great-grandmother tending to a swarm of honeybees taken in 1910. That's what got it all started. In 2001, he bought his first book, Beekeeping for Dummies, hive equipment, 2 to 3 pounds of packages of honeybees, and placed them in a friend's pumpkin patch. That summer, those 2 hives and swarms turned into 7. That first winter, those 7 hives were sent to the almond pollination for $40 a hive. It's gone up a bit since, huh?
A little bit.
Taking hives to the almonds for pollination has become an annual event for the Knight family honey. That continues to this day. During the next several years, Lee tried to soak up all the knowledge he could pertaining to beekeeping by reading, being a part of the local bee clubs, and learning from other experienced beekeepers. He first joined the Wasatch Beekeepers Club, and then later the Utah County Beekeepers Association. Who was president back then? You remember?
Marcet.
Who?
Marcet. He was, I think he's Canadian French.
Okay. I never met him, so.
If not, then it would have been the doctor guy that had the kids.
Well, that's,
Stephen Bryles?
no, the one before that.
Oh, okay.
So, he joined these associations as they were only places available to learn about beekeeping Joining the UCBA, he had the opportunity to not only learn, but to become more involved by being elected to the board. During his tenure with the UCBA, he was able to work with other members to create training programs for newbies, advance acceptance of beekeeping within city limits, and develop the Be a Beekeeper, or BAB program that encouraged the youth of Utah County to participate in the hobby. During this time, he has also joined the Utah State Beekeepers Association and later served on the board of that organization. You just got recognized by them too, didn't you?
Yeah, this winter,
Last
last
year.
February, yeah.
Yeah. With the encouragement of and friendship of Utah commercial beekeeper Darren Cox, Lee joined the American Honey Producers Association, AHPA. Through this membership, he had the opportunity to keep his auctioning skills use his auctioning skills to benefit the association, which has raised millions for the AHPA to assist in government legislation for the benefit of honey producers, as well as foreign anti-dumping legislation. Through contacts made at their annual convention, Lee had the opportunity to invite some of the leading practitioners, expert scientists, experts, and good old beekeepers to be speakers for the Utah State Association. In this relentless pursuit of beekeeping knowledge, Lee spent countless hours speaking with Olive Jones at Jones Bee Company. They used to be up in Salt Lake, then had a little shop, but they're not there anymore, I don't think. I think they closed. Learning from all her experiences, Lee also had the privilege of connecting with some commercial beekeepers. Lee was fortunate to meet and work with Mel Taylor, spending time working in Mel's apiary while asking many, many questions, which was met with patience and a generosity of information. Roger Stevenson also proved to be an invaluable friend. Lee was able to work in Roger's commercial operation. There he learned more skills and continues to be thankful for the experience and knowledge he gained. In 2004, Lee wanted to expand his beekeeping operation, and at the same time, he saw a need for a different bee package supplier in our state. Naturally, he started selling packaged bees. This not only afforded him the ability to buy packages for his growing operation, but also to establish a place for the community to obtain quality packaged bees every year. Lee's savvy business sense has allowed his operation to grow successfully and profitably every year. He has always documented or demonstrated a desire to focus on the quality of product, quality of service, and a passion to help advance the culture. These are driving beliefs behind his business. If you've worked with him, he definitely has done that. To further the advancement of the beekeeping culture in Utah, he took all his experience and knowledge to create one of the first comprehensive beginner and intermediate beekeeping classes. These courses centered around helping those who wanted to start beekeeping.
Yep.
These courses were significantly different. A single style of beekeeping based on Lee's years of success. Through the classes, Lee has mentored countless new beekeepers and forged numerous friendships that endure to this day. Most important to Lee is his family. His lovely wife April is with him tonight, and their children have always been there to help work with Lee in building his family business. Though there was grumbling on some occasions, which usually happens amongst family. Together, they put in many hard hours and forged a lifestyle Lee's great-grandmother would be proud to witness. He is a friend and a mentor, and I love him and his family. They're special to me. And
Lee, you wanna come up?
would you come up? What do we do?
Open that, Sam.
So on behalf of the Beekeepers Association, I'm gonna give you this plaque as appreciation for that. And we also, and Jay, you talking Beekeepers Association.
Good-looking jacket.
Jack.
It is a good jacket.
This gentleman right here was our BAB from last year. And are your hives still alive?
I think so, yeah.
Does it fit?
If it doesn't, we can order and get a different
Well, it's
size.
like about 50.
But we appreciate all he does for BAB and providing bees for the BAB program and
Whatever size you said.
I know, the neoprene's a little bit tighter fit, but I can get the other, I can get a larger one.
Very good.
It
look
does.
at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, nice. Sharp looking jacket.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, you're welcome.
It's nice to work with you and continue. And I couldn't do it without April and all of her help and that, being able to make sure that I could
Yay, go.
have the ability to do it. And I'm glad that people have gone to my class and bought my bees and has been able to be a part of that. It's awesome that everybody's doing the BAB and still going good. That program started kind of with a bee project when I was 13 or 14, and we turned it into a bee project. So I'm glad it still is going, and it's not an easy thing to do. So whoever's in charge of it now
And she wanted to be here.
it's a hard thing to do, and I think that it's them that are going forward. We're just doing now the packages, trying to help you guys, but you guys have been, everybody that does this voluntarily, this is a lot of time you guys put in, and thanks again for acknowledging me. I'm not dead yet, so it's kind of nice.
And we're trying to do it for people who are alive.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So how many people are here are newbies that are needing to get packages for this next year? Nobody? Anybody buying bees this year? So, again, whenever I talk, I always say I'm from the Lee Knight School of Beekeeping, and I might need your help, Caleb. Goodness.
You know what you put in.
All right. So Lee taught me everything I needed to know about bees, and you're gonna, having never seen this, you're gonna talk about bees.
I think it's from our class.
Did you plagiarize him?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
It's just that good, looks like.
What?
It just looks that good.
Okay, when I took the class and we were talking about different bees, he's like, go with Italians, and if you make it through the first year, then you can get a different breed. Is that your philosophy?
I kind of, remember when we were all 16? Were we happy to get a car? Did it matter what kind of car we got? As long as it was a car, and it got us down the road. Then after a couple of years of going, okay, I'll do this, or do this. I want to haul wood, or I want to haul horses, or I want to have good gas mileage. That determines kind of what kind of bee you want, what you might need. So for the first year, any bee, I think, would be great. Now, as you got a few more years underneath you, then some of these traits that you have shown, they'll pop up and maybe do for you. But the main thing is this one that makes it underneath your management, the way you're keeping your bees. I don't feed. You asked about pollen earlier. I don't feed. I don't put any winter feed on. I don't do any helping of the hive whatsoever. If the bees need help, then I don't want them. So if they have to be helped, I think as you help them, you're just making the breed weaker in the springtime.
So this is a Lee Knight quote, "You're creating welfare bees."
Yeah. So I kind of have to be able to do what I do. I mean, be able to say you have to have good bees to make it through the winter, and any bee that makes it through the winter with your management is going to be a good bee. Now, you can start to categorize them of, say, this is the Italian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's good things with the Italian. I mean, who has started with the Italians? They like those ones because they're golden in color. They're very easy to find them in the hive, and they build up pretty fast. They have a big hive during the winter time, but that can be a positive. In the summertime, you're making big bees, making big hives, make a lot of honey. But lots of bees going through the winter, they eat a lot of honey. So they have to be, you have to make sure you have enough food for them to go through the winter because they eat so much. So there's pros and cons. Like, I think they like to rob a little bit. They tend to rob each other a lot if your hives are close together. If the hive isn't strong and you didn't maybe, I like to put weeds or take a rolled piece of paper and put it in the front entrance to make it so it's a smaller entrance in the fall. That's just for your weak hive. Your big strong hive doesn't need that. For a weak hive, a small entrance so you don't have any robbing happening.
Would you suggest if you had a number of hives that you have different types of bees?
Yeah. I have
Pros and
4 or
cons.
5 different kinds of cars, and other than a Chevy,
Me too.
it's the same kind of thing. I mean, you go and see which one, with your management, you really enjoyed working. Split off of that hive more often, and make nooks off of that hive, and you'll have maybe a breed that's just a mud, but you're a breed and it
Still a
worked
good
good for you. Mhm.
Yeah, after the first couple of years, if your bees are continuing on, you basically have a mutt because you don't know what they've crossed with out in the.
And then you have a Carnolians, or New World Carnolians, and they're more of a hardy mountain bee. They're a darker bee. They build up early in the springtime once pollen starts to come in. So we don't see the pollen, but we have pollen on maple.
My maples, silver maples, yeah.
We have
Linden trees.
linden trees. We have pussy willow. We have a lot of pollen, and the Carnolians won't start to build up until then. Well, right now I'm getting ready to go to the almonds, and I can find a fistful of brood on one frame side of the brood of the frame. Since this few years ago, I had a stroke, so talking is a little bit harder for me. So I'm sorry if I'm slurring. I feel it's a lot harder to talk. But the Carnolians, they don't have any brood in them at all, and so I do see the difference of they build up a lot earlier. The Italians a lot earlier than the Carnolians, but once they start to build up, they build up so fast, and if you're not on top of it, they'll swarm on you. Okay, so giving them room is a very important thing in any of your hives in the springtime. They like to swarm. My favorite hive is the darkest bee out there. I like a dark black bee, as dark as I can, because they seem to be the ones that I don't have to feed all the time. They seem to be pretty gentle. As long as I use smoke, I hardly ever, I mean, I think we have 2,000 hives, and we're working them quickly, and I maybe got stung 3 or 4 times last year, and I don't wear a full suit or anything, I just wear jeans, and then I wear a long sleeve shirt, and then my belt. And so I like the Carniolan over the years, I prefer them. They build comb really good. If you have foundation, all the bees will do best if you can feed them, if you're drawn out foundation. If not, you want to take last year's honey, always take a couple of frames of your honey and don't extract it. Keep it for the springtime, because we'll never have enough time to mix up the mix and put it in the hive. I just like that you can take out a frame and put a frame of honey in, a lot easier than mixing a mix, right? And I think the honey is better for the bees than the actual sugar water. Now, if you have to use sugar water, in the springtime it's 2 to 1. In the fall, it's 1 to 1. And do I use essential oils in it? Yes. Anytime you can keep that sugar from molding, it would be great. We have Russians, and nobody's been bringing any Russians in. We've started bringing in the Russian bees because I got to meet Steve Coy. Steve Coy is from Mississippi, and his family runs about 10,000 Russian bees, and that's all they run is Russians. And they're down in Mississippi, and they run those bees from Mississippi to California, up to
Washington?
North Dakota.
And back down
What's up
to
in North
Mississippi.
Dakota?
Lots of honey.
Honey?
It's a honey state.
I know.
Spring clover.
Oh, clover.
Alfalfa.
Clover, the clover, it doesn't have to be
Sunflowers.
irrigated. It just blooms. It's just
Wow.
if they have some rain. And so by learning about the Russian, I try to use the Russians, and myself, I struggle with them. As long as I was in the city, the bees were fantastic. I loved the Russian if I was in the city area. They build up really good, and as long as they have natural pollens and natural sugar, nectar coming in, they build up. But they don't grow with a pollen patty, and they don't grow with feeding. They might stay 4 or 5 frames of the size of a package that you bought. They might not get any bigger at all, but they make it through the winter, and is that what we're trying to do? Now, if you have a good wet year and you have lots of pollen, they'll build up very quickly. They'll do very good. And do I see any difference? Did it look different? They're dark, they're light, they look like tiger stripes on the back. I can't tell the difference. But the hive that's sitting over here all the time, it just doesn't grow where all my other hives are growing. That either something's wrong with the queen, or that might have a little Russian in it. And they were not bred to make a lot of honey. They were bred to make with the mites being in Asia, and right there with the Russia, right there, we had a lot of mites there. They've been able to be around the mites for 200 years. So those Russians have been exposed to the mites and living with the mites all the time. So they're always grooming. They're very grooming, and they only go up and brood and down and brood. So what's the main thing we want to do to the mite population? We want to break up the brood cycle. Now the Russian bees do that naturally. So as the pollen comes in, they build up a lot of brood. But then when the pollen stops coming in, and it's mostly pollen, not nectar. As long as pollen comes in, they'll brood up. But when it stops, they'll shut down to nothing. She'll go queenless sometimes. You'll go into a Russian hive and, where's my queen? I lost my queen. She's dead. Hey Lee, my queen's dead. No, she's a Russian. You look outside and see what kind of blooms you have and what you might have, and that will help And you have to go back to your last year notes and find out when your bloom was going on and stuff like that. If you don't have that,
With that brood break,
it breaks it up. So when you break up
so
this
then
mite
the
cycle,
mite cycle breaks.
so where does the mites live?
They don't-
Where they live?
Drone brood especially.
They really like the drone brood, but they like to be in the mite, in the brood. And now, a young bee gets out, she goes and her first job is to go out and feed another baby bee. And so they take that food, they go in and stick their head down inside of a cell. That mite can smell that little larva, and she jumps off and gets underneath the larva, and it's hard to kill them. So they break that up, and so now the bees only have them on their cells, so they can groom them off, and you can use smoke, you can use oxalic acid, and it just disrupts the breeding cycle. So I like them. Now, over the last several years, Oliveras has come up with a new breed, and that is the Saskatraz. Let's say it all together. Saskatraz. So they come from Saskatchewan, and they want it, it's kind of like Alcatraz, so they combine them together. So that area, everybody runs this one bee that was making lots of honey, and the mites were doing really good, but they've been bred for three main things. First one is honey production, then mite treatment, and then mite tolerance, and then overwintering abilities. So the first one is honey. So I think the Saskatraz makes a lot of honey, and it's the same thing though as an Italian. A lot of honey, a lot of bees makes a lot of bees to feed, and I don't like to feed them, but they've been doing very good. I just got a email from Ray talking about the Saskatraz, and about 80% of their selling of all their queens are Saskatraz. So that has to do with the way they bred these bees. Individuals, like you might do very good with Carnolians, you might do really good with Russian, and this little guy might do really good with Italians. But that's a lot to learn from. All sorts of different things going on. The Saskatraz, they're making honey, they're overwintering, and they're mite tolerance. Isn't that everything everybody wants, right? So I think this is kind of a win-win breed. It has the same things that, builds up fast, does well, but the first thing that they're concerned about is how much honey is it make. Are they nice? Who works their bees with smoke? Raise your hands. Who doesn't? Okay, you guys are getting stung. And you guys should always work your bees, in my opinion, with smoke. You might be able to go out and work those bees with no smoke on days where there's nectar coming in. They're gonna ignore you. But on those days when you're pulling honey or something, you're gonna get lit up.
Saskatrazes hate redheads.
I
They
think
chase my wife across the yard every time.
I think any hive that doesn't have smoke on it, you're just pushing it. Now it's not you. This is something we talk about in our class. We have a veil on and we have a suit on, but your neighbor doesn't. He's only 10, 50 feet away, and it's not. You don't use smoke for you. You use your smoke for your neighbor, because you spend more time lighting up the smoker and making sure it works to use it for 10 minutes in the hive. But it'll be so much nicer. You won't be chasing around the yard for a week. But I can see the benefits for not using a smoker, and that's, and you find out when your honey flow is. If you go work the bee and you pop the lid up and you're looking at them, you're really, they didn't bug me at all. I feel like I could work this without a veil, and one kind of comes buzzing around your eyes and you're okay. Well, that's pretty good. You come up to them just like this and tuck that and they come at you, there's not a honey flow on. And that's a good way to put in your notes. And the second step class that we teach, the advanced class, it's all about notes. Keeping your notes from year to year, having a diary. Because some years, different breeds will do better than other years, and you need to go back to those notes and say, oh, this year was a wet spring and the cannoli is really good, so we need to make sure that we're gonna be focused on that this year.
What would you keep in your notes, like the weather?
I keep the weather, I put a scale on my hives. In my backyard, I put a scale on the back, and so I can tell when the honey comes in, and I go out there, I can say, okay, it weighs 120 pounds. Now, I go out 2 or 3 days later, it weighs 140 pounds. It gained 10, 20 pounds in 2 days. That lets me know when there's a honey flowing. And I always have phone calls coming all the time, April, when's the honey flow coming? I don't know, it depends on where you live. You're out in Eagle Mountain, you might not get a honey flow. You're up here on the East Bench or downtown with those old trees and linden trees and black locust, you're going to have a nice strong honey flow, all right?
Put a scale on your hive.
Go down to Home Depot or Walmart and just put it on there with a 2x4 across it.
So you
Sit
lift
there.
up your hive
Mhm,
and slide the scale underneath,
mhm.
and then you got the readout, or you
Yeah.
can read it facing you so you can read it.
I like the front or the back, whatever is easiest for you, the beekeeper.
Right.
And I just leave it on there all the time. I like the ones that have the spring on it, that's spring, not the digital.
Right.
Then you can go over them, okay, I got some weight. What temperature it is outside, what the humidity is. I'm learning that humidity is a big thing. I ask April all the time, what's the humidity? What is the humidity? And I've learned that scale doesn't go up unless it's 25% or more better on the humidity. So, and I look at what's flowering, when I look around, what's flowering, what trees are popping. We get half of our honey from the trees, and that's why the city does so well. All these trees, they do so well with these trees, and that. They do so well.
So I would add that Lee does bring in Saskatraz bees, and then you bring in Saskatraz queens also.
Yeah, we use, so several years ago, we had several people selling equipment and bees in the association. And I don't like to sell bees. I'm not here to sell bees. I'm here to talk about bees. So you can go to my website if you're interested in me and you want to learn about the bees that I have, you go to my website. Other than that, let's talk about bee, but not talk about night family honey.
Right. The thing on the Saskatraz, I guess, when I was researching it, the other thing is that they have a resistance to brood diseases, such as the tracheal mite diseases and some of the other diseases, which I felt, just in my research, that they were a little bit stronger that way. But if you want to keep a Saskatraz pure colony and you lose that queen, you need to be getting another Saskatraz queen, because otherwise you're ending up with mutts, right? After a certain period of time.
So when I first started, I would say, and I agree with you. Now, I taught this class for the beginners class. We went to beginner to advanced, and then in that advanced class, we make a nook. And then that nook, we look and we try to find the queen. In several of my hives, I seen 2 queens. I couldn't believe I had 2 queens in there. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to see a lot more queens. So the point I'm saying is, this is when it comes to, if the hive lives and does well with you, if it's a Saskatraz, that's great. If that's what the mother was, I think over time though, we think that hive, that queen lives 7 or 8 years. We're finding out by marks, or we cut the queen's wings at a certain angle for a certain year, like this is even, this is odd. And I go in there in 6 months and they're a different queen. They don't have cut wings. So how much is that queen that you're buying? Are you really getting the queen that you want? Yes, I think the first several batches of brood is, but I think over time with us beekeepers, we go out there and every week, every 10 days, every 14 days, and we're pulling up her frame, and we might roll her, and we damaged her leg, and she might just not walk very good. And so what the bees do is they say, hey, look, the queen's not doing so well, let's requeen them. And now she hasn't gone over and tried to kill the cell. Now you have 2 queens in the hive. She eventually dies, and now you have a nice young queen that's left over. And I see that all the time now with my hives. And it's with a lot of our breeds, we're always requeening. We're losing that ability for our next generation to sustain itself, right?
I was gonna say, don't you wanna keep your queen as long as possible, or until at least, or as long as she's productive? I mean, 'cause she's
My point is, I
expensive.
don't think we really know what our queen is. After we put her in a couple times, if she's marked, you might know, but other than that, I
You
can
tell,
I don't think you really know, honestly.
unless you mark her.
Kind of, yeah. And that's how I had to find out if it's working for me. I cut the wings. Because I think the paint makes the queen look different. And what do we do with people that look different? We scale out of them and shun them. We don't want that to happen on our queens. Question?
Yeah, are you requeening most of your hives then yourself, or are you letting them do it?
Yes.
What percentage are you requeening, would you say, in a given year?
50%.
Yeah.
So I take my hives, it's a good mother hive. It's a good hive made through the winter. We want that hive's genetics. It did well with the way I manage it. So come springtime, I'll make a little 4-frame nook or 3-frame nook. Keeping so a cow doesn't have a big full-size cow. We have babies. They have little baby calves. And let that cow be something that's can give you a little baby hive. So we do a lot of splitting of our hives 50-50. I would suggest to keep that hive as a cow, as a mother hive, and make a little nook and let that build up. Use your whatever treatment you're using. I like oxalic acid, and I let them make their own queen. And she came from a hive, and so the genetics from that queen, 85% is coming back into this queen. Now, come springtime we do this, and what other hives made it through the winter? Survival hives. Now, so we're mating with survival drones that are alpha mating. Now, those drones could be from hives that somebody's feeding, and that's why I push away from that. But I think it makes for a better breed. But yes, then you make a little nook. That little nook stays a nook, and you kind of baby it all the time. Your big cow here, you just push her. Just push her and make as much honey as you can out of her. Now, what you do with that cow after one nook, or 2 nooks, I like making 2 nooks.
At the same time, or do you give it? Do you give some time before your second?
3 weeks. So I'll do one like the end of April and then the end of May. And the reason why is that is because dandelions and the spring flowers and pollens make a diversity amount of pollen. And that pollen is what makes the queen gets visited about 2,000 times with royal, say it with me? Royal, I can't say it, royal jelly. Where an original little baby only gets visited about 200 times. So a queen is getting hit with this royal jelly all the time. Where's royal jelly made from? Pollen and nectar. And having the most amount of, in our own diets, if we ate rice every day, would we be healthy? Would we be healthy, guys?
No.
No, we wouldn't. Now, we could live, but are we gonna lay eggs for a long period of time? No. So I think during April and May, we have a very large window of all these pollens and nectars coming in to make your nooks and splits. So who's planning on to make a split? I hope everybody, right?
They're so live.
So if your hives make it through the winter, you can take one hive and let them make their own, and then take the other one and buy from a supplier. You can have it delivered right to your front door, and that. And then you got your own over here and compare it to something down the road, you know, what someone has. Your buddy has one, or what North California has, or someone in Texas, and see how it does against yours that you raise. I think the ones you started with, it could do better. Honestly, I think the ones you're going to do is do better. Because on my hives, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 on a pallet, right? Who is running in pallets? Anybody? Okay. So what I do is take half of it. So this one and this one, they make their own queen. This one and this one, I put a queen in. And the ones that make it over the winter is this one, and these ones die. But we have to keep that genetics going, and the drones out there. It's always fun to raise your own queens and grafting your own queens. It's always fun, but you don't have to do that. You can take a frame of eggs and put it in a hive with no queen, with lots of young bees. They'll make their own queen. So how long should I leave the hive alone if I do that and move it over here? How long should I leave that hive?
3 weeks.
3 weeks?
It took me a month before
Anybody else?
I saw that I had a queen laying again.
So you take the time period, and you're looking at 30 days. In 30 days, do you go over and look at the hive and look at it? No. You stay away from that hive, because that queen might be making an orientation flight. She might be taking something. So stay away from that hive if you're letting them make their own queen for 30 days. That's what I do in California. All my hives are in the oranges, and in the oranges it's awesome. We stay at home and we scrape boxes and sandpaper and sand them and make more old boxes look new again.
I have a question. How do you tell a swarm from a mating flight?
So a swarm is going to be thousands of bees. It's a humming. Who's ever seen a swarm like coming up? Not just in a tree, but like flying. It sounds like 10 helicopters going over you. So it's loud. Where a mating flight, a queen is about 25 feet in the air, and they have hundreds of drones following them, and they'll breed in the air. They'll breed with 5 to 15 drones in one minute. So they mount the queen, and then they fall off. When they fall, they leave the semen, and then she pumps that semen in, and it goes in a spermavicula. How big do you think a spermavicula is in a queen? Pretty big. How big do you think it might be? Give me an idea of what it might be.
Pea.
Okay, the pea is pretty big. It's about the size of his head. But that's a good one. You got an idea?
Brain eyes.
Let me see your pin. Everybody have a pin? And the ball boy pin at the end, there's a round ball, right? That's how big the spermavicula is. And that has, so all that stuff goes in the ovary right here and swishes around and mixes all up, and then she pushes that into the spermavicula. And that spermavicula should be white. And that has all the sperm the queen needs for its life. I mean, yeah, the queen needs for its life. Now, if it only got to mate with 1 or 2 drones, it's not going to be it's going to be like clear. It's going to be maybe smoky. And if you're raising lots of queens, go ahead and say a queen is failing on you, and you're planning on you can find that little thing. You can find it, and you can dissect her, and you can find that spermavicula, and kind of say, hey, that queen kind of sucked. Let's give her a hive tool test. You all know what the hive tool test is, right? You just put it on her back right there and kind of start to cut her in half. If she lives, she's a top queen. Let her live. If she doesn't live, it's a hive tool test. Okay, it's a little bit. So you can see that spermavicula. Now queens are as good as they are compared to where they live, where they're mated. In the springtime, a lot of people want early bees, early packages. They want early queens. They want to get that hive going on very early, like the 1st of April, right? You always want to be on there, right? Now, I used to think this way. I used to be the first guy. I used to brag about it, Honeyport. That we're the first people to bring packages in, and you can get your bees as first. We struggled all the time with everybody coming back to us. Hey, my queen isn't laying. Hey, my queen, she's gone drone there. And so we moved it back. We move it back again. So now we're at the end of May, the first end of April and the 1st of May when we bring packages in. Now, why is that? Give me an idea of why.
The weather's, I mean, it's tough on them.
The weather,
unpredictable.
the weather in California, the 1st of April, I think this year it's going to be wet. Now, if it's windy and wet, does the queen might be there, but is she going to bred well?
Proper mate.
She's not going to get a proper mating, huh? So, by moving the bees down into April, the 1st of May, I ensured that I got better queens. And I think my packages that come in at the end, compared to the ones that did get mated even early, they spend most of the month of April where? In the hive. Where I think a hive that's made their nook or made their package at the end or the beginning of May, end of April, every day is a work day. If we can work every single day, I think a lot more gets done. And you don't have to feed as much. And that's the way, same way with when you're making a nook. You know, same thing with a nook. I hope all of you guys do not buy a package. I want to see you guys make nooks for yourself, because then you're learning. Now, some years you only have one hive, and both of them will die, say one. You now you gotta go start over again, huh? But it depends on what area you're buying your queens from. Up north, think about where you're buying your queens from. I bought queens from South Carolina last year. They had really good weather. Down in Texas, they have mean bees, and I always get mean bees out of Texas. And then you have Northern California. So think about where you're buying it to get your queen, your breeds.
When you make your nook, do you cover the entrance for a couple days, or
Nope.
no? You just,
I take, so here's the parent hive. He's a parent, and I want to make a baby. I put it right here, right next to him. So any bee that's been out of the hive, where's it gonna go? Let's go back home. So everything here is young. And when I do this, I'll take a frame of bees that are on open brood, not cut brood, open brood. Those are the youngest bees. So, because what do they do? I said it earlier. What's the first job for a young bee to do? Okay, so is that going to do that on a cat brood or an open brood? So that's going to be your youngest bees. And most likely you ain't going to find your queen on there. She's going to be on the one where there's eggs, right? So I shape those into here. That gives me a couple of frames of young. Anything that's old, where does it go? It goes out, gets a job, gets some pollination and nectar, and where does it go? Back over here. And so all I have is young bees. And with no queen in there, they'll make a queen of their own.
So you say you do that around the first part of May, to start your nuke?
The middle of April
Okay.
to the middle of May.
So that's all you do to make a nook? Did you take
So in a hive,
your new bees,
I want you to think in a hive, a big old hive over here.
right,
I have nectar,
right,
pollen, comb. I have all these things, these assets. They're all assets. Now I need to take all those assets and make a small version of it. So it could be honey, pollen, nectar, eggs. Over here, just a small version of it.
okay,
In this cow, it's a mother cow, right?
right.
What's the difference between this one over here and this one over here? It has more of it. This
And
cow
this is
has a lot more.
mature.
Well, that's all more mature, yeah. So on a nook, you just want eggs, honey, pollen, and bees.
So think about it, he's talking about doing kind of a mini walkaway split, right? But
I've never done a split. So.
But what his philosophy and what he's talking about is that by doing this nook, when we talk about splits, we're talking about move that hive a mile away or move it in the orientation is different because the bees are all gonna, when you're just taking half your assets and putting them in a different hive, they're all gonna wanna fly back to the mother hive. He's saying the baby bees haven't been out of the hive and they're not going to abandon their job of taking care of the little bees to go back to the mother hive. They're gonna stay there with that.
A lot of us backyard beekeepers only have one location,
Right.
our backyard, right? We can't take I used to tell, oh, you have to go 2 miles away
Right.
to make your split. Not anymore. I've learned that you guys can make your split right next to the hive.
So those baby bees are gonna take one of the existing eggs and split to the cells and to make a bigger cell in the one. They recognize there's no pheromone and
Yep, they do.
go after it.
Yep, and they, if you want to help them, there's tools that you can take your hive tool and pull it down and they make their own cell. I don't do any of that. I just let them make their own. If they don't make it, what do I do? If they don't make one in a month of Sundays, okay, you've gone out there, I can't find the queen, there's no eggs after 30 days. What does someone do?
Start over.
Start over again. That's what I do. Just go into the hive, grab
More
bees,
eggs.
grab more eggs, and start over again. That little nook. Now, if your parent dies, who cares? She gave you a nook, and that's your baby. This is the one you're gonna treat for, with all the chemicals you want, or the oxalic acid you want, or you don't do anything to it. But that's the one that your main focus is. This one over here is your milk cow. Just let her milk, make all the honey you want from it. If it dies, so what? You have this little nook over here. Come springtime, because that nook went from 1 box to 2 boxes to 3 boxes, 4. You made a little bit of honey, right? That's good. And she made it through your winter. If this queen dies, or this hive dies, who cares? As long as your nook is good. If they both live, once again, make more splits from that hive. Now breeds, it's the one that works for you. So everybody has different ideas of what breed works. Where you live might be the Carniolan. You might like the Saskatraz. And doesn't matter, as long as it works for you. Okay? That's what matters, is the breed, is what works for you. And it takes you several years to find what it is until you finally get a pattern of going out and exercise. You have to exercise. And if you don't exercise every day, you're not going to see results. Same thing with bees. You're not going to see the results. You're not doing notes. If you're not trying to do, if you don't want just the bees to do themselves, that's what you're going to get out of them, right? Now, working the hive every single day and working them just ticks them off. So I kind of space them out. Like when I put a honey box on, what more can I do? If they didn't make a honey box, if they can't put a honey box on at that time, there's something wrong with it in the first place. So I don't want it anymore. Just take those bees and shake them off in the air, and take that box and put it on top of another hive that's making some honey. Okay? Don't spend so much time as beekeepers in the backyard. I spent $180 for this packaged bee. Is it doing good? Or does it suck? If it sucks, you always got next year. Okay? You always have next year, right? Who has a good garden? Now, you all screw up all the time, right? But what do you say? There's always next year, and what do you do when you go to the nursery? You always grab the ones you like, but there's always this pepper over here you want to try, right? That's the same way with the bees. Now, it does good, does good. If it doesn't do good, on your notes, it's the same peppers. You know this makes good salsa. All right, that's what I'm going to do. But you always try to bring something else in. So, be encouraged to do that. So another thing that is kind of different from the queen production is who's involved with something other than the Utah Beekeepers Association? Who's involved in some other club?
Other, you mean
The
another?
Wasatch
You mean
Club.
like the state?
A bee
or-
club. Who's involved in another bee club? I don't care if it's a county or what. I found that I learned a lot once I left my county and went and learned from other people. My neighbors were like wanting to help me, but they want to help themselves first. And then, but if I have a neighbor that's 2 counties away, that person tends to loosen up, and he takes out his pockets, and he's a little bit easier to talk to. Okay, instead, sometimes we sit in these rooms and okay, I got that, I'm not gonna tell anybody that. And we don't want that. That's what I learned from Oliver Jones. Now, Oliver Jones was an ugly old woman that would answer every question I answered. I did garage doors, and I would stop and do a garage door, and she would talk to me, and I'd ask her a question. I'd go home, talk to April about it, and then 2 days later, I was back over there again. And she would answer all my questions. Now, what I learned from her was that nothing was really right or wrong. It's what works for you. And that's kind of what the last several years is, what's working for you is what you gotta do. And so get out and go meet other associations. Get involved with the national. I'm a part of the American Honey Producers Association. And I think they make the price of honey where it is. Because if it wasn't for them, our honey would be in the dumps. So I think everybody should be a part of the American Honey Producers. Because do you make honey? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does everybody make honey? So why not be a part of the association? So I think to be a member, we went to Tucson this year. It cost us what, a couple $1,000s to go. How many other hobbies? Who has guns in here? Okay, so their gun is already, your gun is, $1,700 just go shoot a deer. So how hard is it to go and learn more about bees, right? So don't be afraid to go out and make a vacation out of going to Tucson or Merced, California or somewhere and get involved in the American Association, American Honey, something else other than local. But get involved. You need to put a hand to the people that put their time every single month trying to find out something that everyone wants to talk about. Hey, we want to have a barbecue. We want to have an auction. Have to do the BAD program. It's a lot of time. So you guys, good job. It's a lot of hard work.
Anybody have any questions for him before we?
No, thank you, that made it so much easier to split.
It does. I actually am gonna do that too.
And so you can take a big hive, and let's say you have 5 hives. You want to make 4 nooks, baby nooks, but that 5th hive, you can make 10. As long as you have eggs, brood, eggs and brood, eggs and brood, eggs and brood, you can have a bunch of 2 frame hives. They'll make their own queen, and the ones that have the best pattern, they put those other queens on top of them. So that pattern stays going. So you can, as long as you only have pollen and eggs and the same amount of stuff you have over here, but in the small version, you can make as many hives as you want.
Lee, you told me pretty much this same thing about 4 years ago. I was just telling Chris here, I had a hive that I was doing just what you said. I split that hive, the same hive, a marked queen, so I know it was the same queen. I split that hive 3 times for 4 years in a row, and all but one of those 12 hives survived. All but one.
That's
I
good.
got a good queen out of it, and it was the same thing.
Are their daughters the same?
Yeah.
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 That's good.
there were two that were as good as that queen. The others were they're very productive, but it was every year 3 splits from that hive, and it was a 5-frame medium nuke.
Well, that's another thing. When you buy equipment, I wish I had mediums when I started.
Yeah, I did all mediums.
Everything mediums, when you're starting out, I think mediums are the bomb. Okay, so 3 mediums for winter time. How much it takes the guessing away. So how much honey they'll leave? I don't just leave that top box, the 3rd box, 100% full of honey. If it's too much honey, it's too much honey. But the chances of it being too little is very little. So make sure that top box of a medium, 1, 2, 3, the top one, is full of honey, and you will make it through winter. And then you won't be having any of these feeding my hive stuff. Okay? I understand we want to be safe. We do it all the time. We put a helmet on you because you get a wreck on your bike. Well, learn to ride a bike better. Everybody's gonna fall. And so the only way to learn is to fall. And so
do you put a queen excluder above the 2 boxes, or do you use an excluder?
no, it's just 1, 2, 3s. That's your brood chamber.
Okay.
Anything above that is all honey. Now, when you take all the honey, you gotta make sure if there is any honey. Let's say there's no honey whatsoever, and there's hardly any honey in the 3rd box up there. Now what do we have to do? We have to feed them. We have to dump it into them. So what kind of feed do we feed them?
That's all time.
If you
Well, if golden honey going
If you
into
save
honey,
some frames, you give them their honey.
but what is your honey frames to save?
Sugarboard.
2 to 1 in the fall.
I don't like the sugar board. I'm a person away from sort of sugar board. So from me, you won't hear me say sugar board. I say dump that feed into a two part sugar, 1 part water, and you dump it into them till they
You mean in the fall?
In the fall.
in the fall. Yeah.
Early
What
fall.
about in the winter? What would you do in the winter?
Does a bear eat in the middle of winter?
No, but.
Okay, so neither do honeybees. They don't need you're giving them food in the middle of winter. A bee doesn't go out scrounging around for food. If it doesn't have a fat on its body to go through the winter, it's not going to make it. The same thing with bees.
Well, I'd read that they moved from honey frame to honey frame.
Yes, they do.
Winter. As a group, so they do eat the honey, that's why.
Well, that's what I mean.
you
They eat, but I think the analogy, what I mean, I'm saying, so they don't go out and eat.
Gather.
Yeah, the other thing also is never let there be an empty frame going into winter between your honey frames, because just that walk across the empty frame could be enough to kill them.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the mediums. They're not so big to go around to, where those mediums are like this big, and I think they like it better. Yeah, they like it better. So, but good luck, guys. Who's planning on making
Thank you.
nook?
I am.
We're all making nook, right? If you have bees, you're bound to make a nook. Okay, you always got to do it. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Awards and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee, and, anybody else have any other questions? We look forward, remember to pay your dues. And it's on Facebook.
Is it 20?
It's 20.
It's 20.
And what is it for the Utah State one? What's that one called?
I don't know.
You gotta look that one up.
Yeah.
$10 for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it's called though, because my Medbo's not finding it.
So Utah County Beekeepers, it's on Venmo or PayPal.
I got
Or
that.
Jen will be here and you can pay her.
Next time.
Yes.
Yeah, the $10 you're talking about is a license, and that's to the state.
Through the state Department of
Oh, I gotta go on their website.
Yeah, the USDA, US.
He's a bad guy.
Yes.
So, did your hive make it through the winter? Is it making it?
So far, yeah, I think so.
So this is maybe an extra step to the VAB program. So you're not taxing your suppliers. I think your VAB program should be the mentor and the supplier of a Nook to your nectars.
Ah,
Now, if it doesn't have a hive to split, I understand that, but, so, the calf, the Catch a Calf program that I had to raise a calf, breed the calf would give a baby, and then now that baby has to be put back in the program. So it's constantly moving. And so it's more sustainable. You're not always taxing your suppliers. Now, would it work all the time? No, that kid might not do it. But who always has an extra Nook? No, 3-frame Nook, a frame of brood, frame of eggs, and a frame of honey. There you go. There's your program. Not that it will ever go away with one as long as I'm here, but you know, I don't know.
sustainability.
I had the stroke and I could be dead. Okay, so who knows if the program could stay? I think the program should be thinking about its future and maybe a 2-year program instead of a 1-year program.
Good idea.
Thank you for that suggestion. If anybody does have any more questions, we'll see you next month, the second Thursday. Good luck. I still have one hive alive. I know it. They were out the other day flying around, so.
I have 3, but I think one will not make it.
This is when the hives start to, if they're stay alive or they're gonna die. So your mites were good. This is when you'll find out.
Just making sure that they had an opening so that they could, you know.
Okay, thank you, everybody.